Hello everyone. I recently showed this Werever pen to everyone that was watching my channel, and it was in my steel nibbed drawer, and it has a gold nib, which I may have mentioned on that video. I can't remember. Whether I did or not, I should pay attention to what I do and what I say. And someone wanted to buy it, and I gave them a price thinking it was a steel nib. It is a gold nib, so the price is going to be a little bit different than I had said. But the point is, I'm not trying to teach you how to bait and switch, because that wouldn't be good. Anyway, what I want to do is just see, in fact, how well this nib on this pen is doing. And part of what makes me able to write very, very finely, making a really fine line like it is doing right there, is because, as you see, I'm drawing quickly. I'm moving my hand, across the page at so many inches an hour, or inches a second, or whatever the term would be for ink, a pen nib traveling across a page. I suppose it would be, easiest thing might be feet per second. Would that be the right amount? I think inches per second could work as well. 1001, 1002, depends how many digits we want to deal with. 2 feet per second, 20 inches per second, I don't know. I suppose inches per second would be most likely. So if I were to draw or write more deliberately with a pen and go from 20 inches a second to 2 inches a second, or 1 inch a second, 1001. I mean, is that line an inch long? Probably. If you stretched it all out, it might be an inch. So an inch a second. I'm trying to be as lightweight as I possibly can. Just have, see, now that is about as light. What's happening here is the paper is pushing up on the pen. I'm sort of I'm making contact with the paper, but it's the paper's pressure pushing up on the pen that is actually making the contact. Now that's something that most of us don't do. We don't find paper and we bend it so that it is not on the table flat. Some calligraphers do that, but that is not what we normally do. So if this was a piece of paper, it is a piece of paper, we don't have to imagine. It is a piece of paper on my desk and it's flat. I'm holding it down and I'm writing the word the. So I have to remember how to spell it. The. Now if I write this, I don't know how many seconds that took. Do you have your stopwatch? The. No, you don't dot a T, you cross a T. The. I want to keep dotting the I. Ike. The. So writing and spelling is slower than swooshing and not spelling. So the finest line I can maybe make with this deliberately, once upon a Midnight Dreary, that might be twice as fat as that line. Now, how do we, without getting the micrometer out, a way that I can decide how fine a line is by, here's an inch. And what I do is I draw how many distinct vertical lines, how many parallel lines can I draw within that inch. Now, as you see, I'm drawing kind of fast, moving the pen kind of fast. If I slow down and are more careful, my lines are more jiggly. But I get the lines, as you can see, are thicker. I'm trying to be as lightweight as possible here and do it slowly. And it's really hard. It's hard for me to, I guess it's somewhat possible. But most of the time, when I get I'm dipping this pen, I'm not filling it. Most of the time when I am using a pen to draw or to sketch or to do calligraphy, part of the line that I'm making is at 20 feet per second, 20 inches per second. It's very, very fast. And other times it's kind of slow, but most of the time, or part of the time, it's fast. Now, another thing, I'm using Sheaffer ink, which I would never, ever, 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 ever recommend for anyone. But I only have one bottle of real good ink handy at my desk, so I might have to do an emergency calligraphy job. In fact, thank you for reminding me that I do have one I have to do. I have to remember what I need to write. It's for a holiday card for someone that bought some artwork of mine, and they wanted to deliver the artwork along with the thing that says in my handwriting and my signature at the bottom, Happy Christmas. Anyway, where was I with this? First of all, I want everyone to see my beautiful hands. See, I can clean up. I can clean myself up once in a while. My 3/4 roommate and I had a neighbor over for dinner last night, and I thought, I really need to try to get the ink off my fingers. The caked on ink from repairing pens. Okay, I'm using shitty ink and I'm using shitty paper. This is good paper. This is 100 and some years old. I don't know does it have a date on any of this? Well, it's from an old ledger book from 1880. And it's really, really nice paper. Very hard, very smooth. This is paper that's 18 minutes ago, and it's bleeds, and it's shitty paper. And because of the paper quality, this is spongy-ish. So this is going to suck in more ways than one. It's going to suck ink out of the pen because it's thirsty. So if I were to do my test of trying to draw as many parallel lines like this within an inch using this paper and going slowly, I would have way fewer than doing the same thing on this one. So you just have to be aware that when you make thin lines, I guess the moral of this story is when you make thin lines, you need to have a fine point You need to have good paper. You need to have good ink. And you need to think fast. Don't think about how to spell the word the. It should just come right out of your hand without having to remember to cross the T and not dot the I. So speed is important. Now, when I would be selling pens over the counter with people, and especially people that maybe wanted to be somewhat calligraphic in how they wrote, I would hand them the pen and they'd write, now is the time for all good men, or they'd write, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, whatever they want to write, or sometimes their name. And they would take all sorts of time to carefully make the lines thick and thin and do all of the stuff that they normally do with calligraphy. And because they were so conscious of making the lines thick and thin, they made mistakes. If you're driving your sports car and you're shifting from first gear to second gear and things like that, if you actually are paying attention and saying to yourself, okay, now I'm going to shift into second gear, you're going to get in an accident. You just have to let your body already knows how to move your foot onto the clutch, and your hand goes down to the gear shift, and you do that, and you can read the road signs and talk to your person in the back seat, and you can do all of that stuff without having to think about it. That's sort of what you do normally when you write. And when you try to do, quote, calligraphy, and you're thinking really, really hard, you're screwing up because you're thinking too much. So I would tell people when they got done with their attempt at making lettering pretty, I'd say, okay, take a letter. And I would start dictating to them. And because I would talk faster than they could write, they would try to keep up with me. And just by the brain that was responsible for them to write calligraphically had to be shut down. It couldn't keep up with the dictation. So what happened is, just by their writing quickly, they were getting smooth, rounded lines. They were getting thick and thin automatically because of the speed that they had to do. And they were pressing down a little bit more than they might automatically because they were sort of angry that I was dictating a letter that they had to write fast. So there was automatically some thick and thin stuff happening just because the hand was doing the work, not your brain. So speed really is in my opinion, other calligraphers don't share this opinion, but in my mind, drawing, writing, doing calligraphy, making a fine line requires speed. And good ink and good paper. Now, why is this skipping? I think it's skipping just because I'm tipping and it's not. So what I have to do is make sure this pen is working before I send it off to a new owner. I have to fix the price point that I had said in terms of the cost of the pen, because I thought it was a steel nib pen because that was what I was talking about I thought I was talking about it where they were steel nibs. So maybe, I may lose a sale because of this, and I hope not, but it could happen. But I may find a different pen, a pen that maybe is finer than this. This is not the finest nib. This is maybe finer. It's a gold nib as well, but anyway, we'll see. The main thing I wanted to tell you and you was about the speed thing. And I know I've said this before in videos, but here I'm combining speed with paper and with ink, and I'm sort of adding more things that we get to juggle. So, speaking of paper, these are California paint chips that someone was throwing out here in the building, and I ended up using the paint names, Little Pinky. So I did a drawing on these things, Little Pinky, and it's Liberace at the piano, and there's his Little Pinky. And the reason that this looks so funny is because this is paint. I'm drawing on paint. I'm drawing on silk screened pigment that's it's like house paint. So the ink doesn't, it just beads up on the paper, and then it dries and it sort of fades, but it's really kind of neat. So I'll show you, just speaking of different kinds of paper, I'll just do one here. This is Wink Pink is the name of this color. So how am I going to draw that? Shall I use I'll still use the Schaefer ink that bleeds. Wink Pink. Wink Pink. So here's our dame. You see what's happening though. The ink is, can you even get in focus here? Look how fine this line is. And the ink isn't even going into the paper. It's just sitting on top. It doesn't have anything to grip on. There's no tooth. So here's our winking eye. This is a dame who's coy. Nose. Ear, hairdo. God, this is really weird. See, it's also, it's kind of fun to do sort of finger painting on this too. This is how my hands get so dirty. But you can see the resist that's happening. And most people, everyone probably watching this would think, Pierre, why are you wasting time? Why are you ruining that perfectly good paint swatch by trying to scribble on it? This is red ink here I'm getting out. I'm rubricating her lips, which is the fancy term for using red ink, which is sort of turning pink. Isn't this beautiful? Add to shopping cart $1 million. Well, this is it's Marie Antoinette's head after it was severed, and she's just winking. How's that? After the guillotine chopped it off. Think pink. No, pink. Wink Pink. Rose Frivole is how they decided to translate this concept into French. There we go. Add to shopping cart $1 million. You see, it is in fact sort of reddish ink. Now, look at me. See? Inky fingers. You can't take me anywhere. Bye.